Welcome, everybody, to Beers in the Lot, episode number 3. We got into some pretty good topics here tonight. We touched on New York Islanders and Philly Game 5. A little discussion about Lehner and Marc-Andre Fleury over in Vegas. How well Brayden Point's been playing for Tampa. And we also talked a little bit about some of the weirdness that's going on with all the goalies getting hurt and the strange goalie situations. And we only mentioned Toronto 7 or 8 times this time. So here we go. All right, guys, y'all ready to do this? Let's open these beers. What do you say?
Let's go.
Let's go, boys.
Mm-hmm. Hold on.
What are you drinking tonight, Rigsby?
I have a local brew.
Ooh,
fancy guy.
From Old Mother Brewing in downtown Frederick, Maryland. It's called Dire Wolf. It's a double IPA, double Citra IPA. It's pretty tasty.
What you got, AA Ron?
I am drinking a Moosehead Radler, grapefruit Radler.
Oh, yeah.
I love these things. I could drink these all day.
You're still in summer mode.
I'm still in summer mode, man. This is the best thing to drink when you're on the lawnmower or after playing hockey. This is the best.
Oh, yeah.
It has juice in it and vitamins.
It's juice.
It's good for you.
It's got antioxidants.
He's going to want to run a marathon after this.
Don't be careful though. Grapefruit can make some of your medications not work. So don't take it if you're on birth control.
Okay. All right. Did you eat tuna for lunch today? Did anybody eat tuna for lunch?
Tuna gang.
You gotta be careful that mercury poisoning, guys. I'm telling you.
Tuna gang.
What are you drinking tonight, John? You got something good?
I have. I'm not as fancy with you guys with your summer seltzers and your double IPAs. I have a good old fashioned beer here, a 24-ounce Labatt Ice.
A mortar,
because I go hard in the paint. So
at least it's a mortar.
Yeah, 24-ouncer. Don't play around.
Stadium can.
Stadium can. That's right. D-Bone, what are you drinking over there?
I got Blue Mountain Brewery from my home state of West Virginia. Hopwork Orange.
Ooh.
Delicious. Orange infused IPA.
Oh, you have juice. You have juice too.
I do.
And an IPA.
You're being healthy.
Yes.
Wow.
Exactly.
I've been really health conscious lately.
Wow. I don't know how I feel with all you health nuts here. You guys are. I don't know. I feel so crazy.
Speaking of health, we hoping for Barzal's health here, or what's going on?
Aaron, I have a bone to pick with you about Islanders Philly.
Okay.
Because I think the four of us, secretly or otherwise, maybe overtly, I don't know. We all kind of want Philly to lose.
3 Pens fans and 1 Washington fan don't want Philly to do well? That's weird.
And I think maybe you jinxed them a little bit earlier. We're all watching what is this, Game 5 now? And you said, "Oh, the Islanders are going to win," or whatever.
I said probably. It's 3-1.
And then all of a sudden, Philly scored the 2 goals to go up 2-1.
But then the Isles came back and got a couple, right?
And Philly
and now Philly just scored the goal.
It's all your fault, Aaron.
Damn it.
Philly just won at Game 5 in overtime to extend the series.
So it's going to Game 6. Isles up 3-2. All right. Well,
So I'm blaming you.
Fair enough.
What would you say you do here, Aaron?
I just cut the sound. I just try to edit out mic click or pen clicks. That's all I do.
Pen clicks.
Well, maybe Barzy comes back for Game 6 then. I don't know.
Yeah,
hopefully.
I don't know. We didn't really see him much at the end of this game, right? So
yeah, because he got hurt in the third, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Giroux follow through. High stick. It wasn't called due to the fact it was a follow through.
It looked like it got him under the eye. Hopefully it didn't get him in the eye.
Yeah. That's unfortunate.
There's already an Islander out there with the cage on, isn't there?
Komarov.
Komarov.
Yeah.
Komarov, yeah.
Yeah. Uncle Leo.
Well,
but touching on Uncle Leo. But kind of touching on it though. I mean, we didn't really.
Jerry, hello.
Yeah, hello. We didn't. No, I want to go off on a totally different tangent, but I can't.
Yeah.
But
This is not a
kinda-
Seinfeld podcast.
that's right. It's not a Seinfeld podcast. We can be, but not tonight. If you kind of, we were talking about the Islanders in general. They have a lot of good pieces right now, and their top guys are playing well. They're getting secondary scoring, and also Varlamov has been really good. And then Grice, when he stepped up to the plate, and we'll get into goaltenders a little further down the road, but he has really been a good 1B option for the Islanders through the playoffs so far, and in general this season. Plus Barry Trotz is behind the bench. I like that formula there.
Yeah,
The Trotz formula.
Yeah, and that Islanders team is executing it to a T.
Mm-hmm.
They all of their pressure points are on the outside of the ice. They didn't allow Florida for sure. They didn't allow Washington, and now they're really not allowing Philly up until maybe the last game and a half here to get to the middle of the ice and get good chances. They're just so strong on the wall, so strong in the corners. It's pretty interesting to watch. It's actually kind of boring to watch. The Islanders don't really generate a lot of chances themselves.
Capitalize,
but they do capitalize on their chances. They've made the Flyers pay on the power play, and they just prevent good offensive teams from getting to the middle of the ice and being dangerous.
We saw it that game too. I mean, they capitalized in the third period, but they were, like you said, they were getting outplayed the whole game.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking earlier, right? And so we just watched Game 5, and Philly won because of Aaron, and
I'm bad, guys.
Because he jinxed the Islanders. And
sorry, New York.
But Philly actually drove play through most of the game. They were leading in shots by, I want to say, 10 or 12 shots at some points during the game. If you follow along with some of the folks on Twitter that post like heat maps of shots and things like that, like the Flyers were getting to the middle of the ice right in front of the Islanders net, so they were getting high danger chances. So they probably deserved to win.
I have one issue kind of with the Islanders rap out there, and coming from a Penguins fan, it almost kills me saying, they say, oh, it's boring hockey, it's lame hockey, but kind of
it is boring.
It is to some extent, but Barzal had 60 points this year.
Yeah.
And the other thing too, if you look at the way they're playing, it's interesting. They're shutting all these, somewhat offensive, kind of, I wouldn't say juggernauts because that's not the right word for Philly and some of the other teams, but they're shutting really decent skilled players down. But then when they're going on the offensive with their odd man rushes, they are exciting. I mean, you kind of,
yeah.
So it is, and I understand Barry Trotz, typically boring style, et cetera, et cetera. But I think kind of the Islanders, I mean, I get the vibe from them, and even their fans, you see it on Twitter. I don't think they care if they play a boring game, because if they win a cup, who freaking cares?
Yeah,
I mean, we're used to seeing right now. I wouldn't care, and we're used to seeing kind of the Avalanche now, kind of Dallas Stars, Vancouver, Vegas. They're putting up goals every single game. So that to us is sexy, but tonight it was, what was the final score? 3-2, but it was a good game. The third period, especially on, that was a good solid game. I like that. So
4-3.
4-3. Sorry.
Yep.
4-3.
Overtime. Overtime.
Yeah.
So, John, you mentioned goalies earlier, and how Varlamov is he's obviously the number one in on the Islanders, and Grice can come in and play in a back-to-back situation, and and they're probably going to get good goaltending, and they're going to have a chance to win, right? So situation out in Vegas, right, between Lehner and Marc-Andre Fleury. And I've been thinking about this a lot, especially after last week when, Fleury's agent posts the painting of the DeBoer sword stabbing him in the back. And, the speculation is because everybody thinks that Fleury should be getting more time than he is in the nets. And I don't know if that's right, because I think Leonard's numbers are really good. And the place that I go to with that is, Vegas is very fortunate that they have a 1A and a 1B, like you said earlier. However, I think with Lehner, if he's in your net, you should win. If Fleury's in your net, you can win. And there's a difference there. Like, Fleury can play well enough that if you give him goal support, you can win. But Lehner could win you a game, I think.
Oh, absolutely. And the other thing too, you touching on Flower, I like the guy. He has a special place in my heart because he's a Pens ex-goalie, and the first season in Vegas was pretty special, going to the Cup and all. But, this year, for whatever reason, you don't know if it's kind of mental or just maybe his skills or maybe even just the way he is. Lehner came in and the way he played, et cetera. And Lehner had a good year in Chicago before he came over. But, right now, if you're Peter DeBoer, Lehner is giving you the best chance to win right now. Flower came in. They did come back against Vancouver and won that game. Fleury, I don't think was responsible for all those goals. Maybe there was one or two. Maybe kind of either under or overplayed. And Fleury does have that tendency throughout his career, not always kind of consistently year to year, but there are stretches he'll either over or underplay the puck or the shot, and that hurts him. Lehner, at least, is a little more concrete in his structure. I think part of that is the goaltending coach he had with the Isles. He went with Barry Trotz. What's his name again?
Mitch Korn.
Mitch Korn, that's right. Some people even say that's why Brayden Holtby the last couple of years is he's looked good, but he hasn't been up to par for what Holtby has traditionally been.
Yeah.
Lehner had Mitch Korn, the year prior, did insanely well. Also, there's some mental issues too. He's battling depression and alcoholism and got himself out of that, so that's always good.
Yeah.
You want to root for a guy like that, especially.
Oh yeah.
And also as goofy as it is, I mean, you could call it cliche. Robin Lehner's playing for a job next year. I mean, this is a good chance to cash in. He's unrestricted free agent. He signed a 1-year deal in Chicago with the hopes, that he was gonna, maybe steal that job from Crawford. And Crawford had some injury issues, so Lehner played a little bit. But then at the trade deadline, Chicago at the time was kind of on that bubble / fringe of not making the playoffs. So they dealt him. If you're Vegas, it's a good situation to have. You have a 1A, 1B, but I mean, then Chicago ends up getting to the playoffs technically and upsets Edmonton. And Crawford played really well in that series, but I hate saying it too. Like, Robin Lehner gives the Vegas Golden Knights the best option to win every night so far. So
I think with that situation also is Fleury is such a good guy. Like, people just want him to play. They want him to be that goalie.
Yeah.
You see it with the Pittsburgh fans. They still blame Murray for losing Fleury, right? But
yeah.
that wasn't what happened. I mean, they went with the younger goalie. You can't really blame that.
I kind of mentioned this in our group text. We were talking about Tuukka Rask a little bit. I feel like Pittsburgh, Boston, Philly, I'm sure there's a few other teams. Washington's kind of the same way. They have a perfectly fine goalie who does their job, has a bad game or two. Oh, no, we don't have a goalie. We'll never win a cup. Insert a goalie's name. They're gone. Free agency, expansion draft, however you want to label it. Oh, man, if we only had a goalie. Oh, this is horrible. You can't. I mean, I hope for Carter Hart because he does show a lot of promise. And, he's highly touted out of Everett. Did really well with Everett in the Western Hockey League. So I do think he's a good talent. I would like to see him in Philly because if Pittsburgh and Philly are combative against each other in the next couple of years. It'd be great to see. It's good for the league, I think, when Philly's in the mix. They're a little nasty. They play a little gritty. I kind of like that for the league. But, man, let's say in like 2 or 3 years something happens in Philly, like they're going to drive him out again. I mean, they did the same thing to Bob. I mean, and then he went on and won 2 Vezinas in Columbus.
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of wonder, like, and then Philly fans the whole time, man, we got to get a goalie in here. It's like, you just had one. So what? I don't get it. So
You know, it's kind of funny because you talk about that, and I don't know if you noticed, but in the beginning of the playoffs, you had Semyon Varlamov, who played on the Caps, and then you had Philip Grubauer on the Avalanche.
Yeah.
He played for the Caps too.
Yeah.
They're all in the Stanley Cup final. I mean, does that come back to Mitch Korn?
Grubauer, yes. Varlamov,
he was under Kolzig, right?
no. I can't remember the history, but I want to say Grubauer, yes. Varlamov, no.
Yeah.
Is how that went.
But Mitch Korn came from Nashville with Barry Trotz.
Right, and everybody knows that, like, if you look at Pecorine, right, like, he was awesome while Trotz was there, and then right after he left, there was a bit of a decline, and there were lots of questions about Rene going forward, even to this day, to the point where I think he lost the net this season.
Saros played for them
Right.
in the round robin, or play-in, however you want to label it.
Well, under
So-
Trotz, they had great defense, but they didn't really have that scoring.
Right.
In Nashville, yeah.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot made of that too, where people say that Trotz kind of suppressed his offensive players in
Who they had
Nashville.
though?
Like they had, well, I mean, they had they had Fisher, like Forsberg was there at least one season when Trotz was there, and the whole idea behind that was that, like, Trotz at that time, the rap on him was he didn't promote his younger players, and he didn't allow guys to go play offense. Like, he wanted them to play safe. That was the reputation that he had at that time. I think when he went to Washington, there was kind of an agreement that, yeah, I'm going to institute my defensive structure, and I'm going to bring my guys. I'm going to bring Lane Lambert, who, runs his penalty kill for him. I'm going to bring I'm going to bring Mitch Korn, and he's going to train our goalies to get to that point. But I think, there was an agreement there that, hey, you're going to have to let Ovechkin and Backstrom and Kuznetsov at the time, who was a very young player when Trotz first came, you're going to have to let those guys kind of go, as long as they're doing, what they need to do in your own end.
I don't think you can really hold those guys back offensively, though.
I don't know. I don't know. Ask Dale Hunter. He completely screwed that team up.
But you know what? You know what's kind of funny though?
And I love the guy because
Yeah.
I grew up watching him, but
He's a scumbag.
He completely screwed that team up
Coaching wise aside, but the Barry Trotz thing, like, I almost think for him to go very hard-nosed defense, because Nashville, I mean, even up to now, to some extent, they're not a cap high team. They can't just in the market. Now, the last couple of years, because they went to a cup final, they can kind of spend a little more because they're able to attract some free agents.
Yeah.
But, Barry Trotz had to kind of work with what he had. So you said Mike Fisher. Yeah, he's okay, but he's not going to put 50-plus points up a year. Mike Fisher's going to lead your team. He's going to do all the right things, etc. Barry Trotz, though, I think when he went to Washington, it was almost like he can kind of have his cake and eat it too, where the stuff he lacked in Nashville, he can kind of go, okay, I'm going to let these guys be the thoroughbreds they are and run, but then was able to, within, some of Kempney and a few of the other role guys, Devontae Smith-Pelly, where they could play that 200-foot game that he needed to while also bang a few bodies and then really just instilled that kind of hard working man's mentality that he had in Nashville. And then you look at it now, the Isles like Lee, Nelson, Barzell,
The
Bailey,
whole lineup, man. The whole
they're all
every line.
every line not only works hard, but they have an ability to create offense. And it's almost scary because kind of like I said, it's almost a hybrid of like that Caps and Nashville style where it's like, he's there where it's this hard-nosed workman ethic. But, what I said too, when they're getting their opportunities, they're cashing in and they're making it look good. They're not, it's not these greasy goals you're seeing. They're actually really nice plays. I mean, that goal to tie it from Brassard, Bailey came, I think it was Bailey that went behind the net. They kind of no-look spinorama backhand to the other side of the net. Yeah, Clutterbuck. Oh, it was Clutterbuck?
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, it was fourth
That guy.
line, dude.
That guy.
Wow. Clutterbuck and Derek Brassard.
Well, that makes sense why I said was Brass still in the league, so he's on the fourth line. But guy, if he's empowering guys with 3 minutes left to go on the ice, those guys, and they're doing things like that, that's a special group you have, and that's kind of we always talk about it with Stanley Cup teams like. We talk about LA years ago, like, oh man, they had Jeff Carter and Doughty and Toffoli when they were, playing well. But you look at other guys like Kyle Clifford played a big part, Jared Nolan, those guys, the fourth and third line guys still played a big factor in those games, in those teams. So
they're dangerous for sure. I don't think they can beat Tampa though.
Tampa's
Is Kucherov going to be back?
Doesn't matter.
Fuck Chara.
They have if you
wow.
I was saying it.
Fuck Chara.
I was saying in our group chat, and I fully agree with it. You look at Charlie McAvoy, subtract what happened to him last night with the hit from behind. I mean, he kind of turned at the wrong moment.
Yeah.
It sucks. It's unfortunate, but Charlie McAvoy goes and runs around and does really asinine stuff for a guy who should be your number one D-man. Moving the puck. I honestly think his days are numbered. I think the second Chara's out of there is that deterrent. Because Chara, I mean, you can say what you want. He's a slower skater. He's not playing as much minutes. Like, no one really wants to fight the Bruins because you have to answer. You have to answer to that 7-foot mountain of a man.
He's still a big, strong, mean dude on the ice. Like, you do not want to mess with him.
Exactly. I think when Chara retires, I almost think it's open season on half of that Bruins team. Just like some of the dumb stuff they've been doing for years, running around, licking people like Marchand. I mean, it's just crazy.
Hopefully he's first.
I want to go back to Kucherov though.
Yeah.
If he's out, does it matter? Does it really matter for Tampa?
No, because Stamkos is already out. I think it's plug and play with that team.
I think really so too, and I also think that the guy that would really hurt them is Brayden Point.
He's the guy this year.
I think I think if Tampa wins the cup, Brayden Point gets the Conn Smythe. That guy is driving play for them. He goes and gets pucks on the wall in the corner. He could skate like Barzal and on the Islanders.
He's so fast.
I think he's a little bit bigger, a little bit grittier than Barzal is. And then he can make plays and finish like that. And all, oh, by the way, I think he's third in points in these playoffs right now behind McKinnon and somebody else. So
I think it's, is it Heiskanen for Dallas? Something like that.
Maybe. One
of the
really
two.
don't
Yeah.
know, right.
Something like that.
But he's right up there with these guys. If Tampa wins a cup, Brayden Point wins a Conn Smythe for me. Like,
you know what's also great about Brayden Point? He makes $6.75 million. And if you are, I mean, you could spin that nonsense they say in some of the other cities in our Florida and all that jazz, like, oh, there's no state tax, et cetera, et cetera. Everyone in the league gets paid in United States dollars. So William Nylander makes more than him.
Oh, he doesn't get state tax either.
Correct. But that's what I'm saying. Like, even if you're in Canada, you still get paid in US dollars. So there's a little bit of a buffer there too. So Mitch Marner makes more, William Nylander makes more, John Tavares, and Austin Matthews. So that's $40 million that Toronto is spending for 4 guys. There's talk they want Peter Angelo. So that may be like almost high fours,
Yeah.
almost $50 million for
and
5 guys.
They're going to have to give him years too. They're going to have to give him like 3 or 4 years.
Well, and because he's a unrestricted free agent, he would get 7 in Toronto versus 8 in St. Louis if he stayed. But Brayden Point's under that number for another 2 seasons after this year.
Oh.
Now, granted, he'll get a big raise. We know that, but somehow Tampa was able to kind of talk to him very politely, like
a sweetheart deal there.
Well, you call it a sweetheart, but I think Stamkos took a lower number than the open market. Kucherov got a lower number, and Brayden Point.
But do you think that's because the team has been that good for that long? Like they've been to, what is it, 4 of the last 6 conference finals in the East or something like that,
and 1 cup in that, and a cup in that,
and a cup final, right?
Yeah.
Like, so they're close, and maybe those guys are thinking, you know what, this is my shot. Like a Stamkos is thinking, this is my shot, right? Because he's been around for a little bit, so he's going to take a little bit less. I think a lot of it too, right, was Steve Yzerman was there as the GM during those contract talks, and he was part of Detroit Red Wings teams where guys took hometown discounts.
Well, you also got to remember
stay
they
there
spent
and win
like
cups.
$1 billion. They spent when there was no salary cap, but still, yeah, they got less than what the Rangers were offering.
They got less
or
than
Philly.
what the market was. Yeah,
exactly. Because
Sure.
back then it was. I mean, I can only imagine some of the contracts that were out back then. It was never published, but it would. It is really interesting. Somehow, you hear that talk like around the league, other teams can get it done for this dollar amount, and for some odd reason, in certain places, they can't get that number done for whatever reason.
So in those situations too, it's not just about the money. Maybe it's about the team situation. Like they have really good relationships with the players and the players' families, and the kids go to school together, or whatever it is, right? Because like
it's a team environment.
They're still just like people going to work, so maybe it's the fact that they like where they're at, both from a playing hockey in the NHL standpoint, and also from a where they live and their lifestyle there, and the people that they hang out with, because that's like their peer group is like the team. Like you're not going to leave that, I don't think, if you think it's that great, So I think more goes into it than just the money too. But
well, yeah, Brayden Point's Canadian, so do you think he really wants to play in some of those cities where he probably couldn't go out to eat or anything? I'm sure in Florida there's some joints he can go into. No one knows who he is.
Well, I would look at it this way: like I like to fish, so he's in Florida. He can go out every day and go fishing. I don't know what his deal is. He probably plays golf. So,
nothing wrong with that. Yep, nothing wrong with that at all.
John Walker.
Yo.
You said that Dallas Stars could not score goals.
I did like 2 weeks ago.
And they are up on the Colorado Avalanche in their series. They're up against Landeskog, McKinnon, Rantanen,
Makar,
Kadri, Burakovsky,
Makar. Yes.
An offensive juggernaut.
And the funny thing is, during the regular season, they were not even close to an offensive juggernaut. Garionov for them had the team lead. The team lead.
Hold on.
Dennis.
The Dallas Stars were not.
No.
Yes. Okay.
Their team lead, sorry. I corrected it halfway before you corrected me as well. Their team leader was not Jamie Benn, was not John Klingberg, was not Tyler Seguin, was not Rupe Hintz, wasn't Radek Faksa, any one of those. It was
Good
Dennis
names.
Garionov. Yes, Dennis Garionov, he had 20 goals. He also leads them in the playoffs with scoring with 8 goals too. And since that Game 6 explosion coming back from the 3-0 deficit against Calgary, they have scored 3 or more goals in every game against the Avs. So Am I a believer now? Yeah, definitely. I think their coach, Rick Bowness, I don't know what he did in terms of like changing up the forecheck or something. I'm sure there's something if I were to watch more of their games, going back.
Yeah.
But he really tied it together. But that team in general, I mean, they have the talent. They had a really rough year.
I know what they've done.
Do tell.
They injured both of the goalies, so they're on their third string goalie.
Well, that's the other thing too. Michael Hutchinson won. It did when this podcast airs. It'll be 2 days. It'll be on Wednesday. He actually was driven out of Toronto for obvious reasons. He had a 3.86 goals against average, and his save percentage was .886. Horrible. Now he went in last night, did very well, I thought, against a team that's kind of buzzing with Dallas, and came out with a W. But Francouz, regular
it's
season,
a little easier to get a W when you have 5 goals in the first period.
That's true. I fully agree.
But it makes the game a little easier.
Yeah, Francouz in the regular season had more wins than Grubauer and everything. So on paper, you're kind of like, oh man, should be all right. Grubauer got hurt. Francouz is, for whatever reason, didn't play, and we'll kind of see what happens in that series. I mean, that's something. The Avs too are a team that could get really hot offensively. And if Michael Hutchinson, let's say, catches fire, because 5 years ago when he was with the Jets, he did win 21 games. He won 21 games.
Yeah.
But Dallas, I mean, offensively, man, everything's clicking so well for them. I mean, they look
all of a sudden
strong. They look great, and in general too. Like Dallas is a bigger, stronger team, but they can skate really well. They have like Faxa and Cogliano and Hintz and Klingberg. Those guys can skate. They're not a bunch of like big guys out there that aren't moving. I mean,
it's a good team. Yeah,
it is.
Right.
It is.
I don't want to give you too much stuff, but they didn't score goals in the regular season. It's a good team though. They should be scoring goals.
Give it to them, Rigo.
They have Sagan, they have Ben, they have Radulov, Rupe Hintz. Like they have all these guys. Miro Heiskanen has been a revelation, I think,
he's a
in
beast.
these playoffs.
Yeah.
Right? Like everybody knew who he was, but nobody knew like he had that kind of offensive production in him. And so but them playing Colorado and taking that lead, I think was a surprise.
Definitely.
Well, in two, I think the other thing, I mean, you could say whatever you want. Grubauer got hurt, yada, yada, yada. But if you look at Colorado, they're really keying in on everybody. And the way that they're forechecking against a younger D-core for the Avs, now that Johnson, I mean, Gerard. The
Eric Johnson injury was huge for them because he was a stabilizer on the blue line as far as minutes. So, everybody, and we've talked about Cale Makar. Everybody knows who he is. The kid can skate. He could generate offense. He's actually pretty good in his own zone, but he can't play those big minutes against the other team's star players, right? Like he's not a shutdown defenseman. Eric Johnson can play those minutes for Colorado. He can protect Makar from those minutes. With him being out, that's a big deal. I actually think it's slightly bigger deal than Grubauer getting hurt for them. Because I think if Eric Johnson is still in, it might help Francouz out, who's now unfit to play too, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean, kind of what we were saying, talk about a weird year for goalies in the NHL playoffs and the bubble especially, but I think
who's
it's more
who's the fourth string? Who's going to come in next?
I forget his name, but there was something where he stayed in protocol in Minnesota where he's at. So when he found out that Francouz wasn't playing, and I forget his name, I apologize to the poor guy. He drove all the way from Minnesota to the bubble.
Yeah.
Because he had to be there. So I mean,
Yeah,
Is he
talk
in
about
the
that.
bubble?
He's in. Yeah, he's physically
he-
in the bubble.
He drove. He drove.
He dressed
up
last night. I gotta find this. Yeah.
From the story is he drove up from Minnesota to Edmonton. He had stayed like in personal quarantine or something like that, so that he wouldn't be sick.
Yeah, in the
before
event he had to
go up,
play.
right? And well, he had to go up because Colorado's on their third goalie that they had. In
Now
the
he's
bubble.
enjoying Timbits in
And
the
now-
bubble.
Yeah, now he's getting free. He's getting free Timmy Hose in the bubble.
That's right.
But the goaltending situations in the bubble, or in both bubbles, have been really weird. Like there's the Colorado situation. Markstrom was hurt apparently, and he's out in the Vegas-Vancouver series right now. We talked about a couple weeks ago Rask leaving the bubble because of family illness, which is totally understandable. But Halak has to go in for Boston.
You're talking about Demko.
He's
Is that who you were talking about, John?
No,
Oh,
he's with Vancouver.
No. So Demko, Thatcher Demko, is with Vancouver.
Yep.
And there was some question. I don't know if he started or not, but there was some question on whether he was maybe going to start tonight.
He did. He started
Did
tonight.
he actually start?
Demko's in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's a Boston College product, right?
Yeah.
I think I'm pretty sure he played World Juniors at some point for
He
USA.
did. He's been in Utica with the Comets for the last couple of years, and he went to the Calder Cup. I forget who they played, but yeah, he's been there. He's been around the last couple of years.
He's good.
Aaron, you should have seen him on your BG mode.
Yeah,
I actually
You
was
see him
about
on your
to say something.
BGM?
This name is not new to me because he is actually like the star goalie in Be a GM mode.
Yes.
In the 2023 season. He took Vancouver all the way to the Cup final and lost them in the Cup final.
this is where it all starts.
That's
right
right.
here.
That's right.
Well, as interesting as my Be a GM mode on Xbox is, I think that probably said enough for tonight. So we'll call it here. Thanks everybody for listening. We'll catch you next week.